All right, so in this video, what I want to do is give you just enough information to use Lychee Slicer to take a model and get it supported and get it into your machine. So I'm going to try to keep this video as short as reasonably possible. If you want to get into more depth, I would recommend you check out 3D Printing Pro's G2Box playlist. I'll leave a link in the description. So why Lychee instead of G2Box? In the past, I've had more luck with Lychee being more stable than G2Box, fewer crashes. I like Lychee's ability to make support trees, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a little bit. I've also had nice results using their file repair function. Let's talk navigation first. So why don't we get started by dragging in a model. I'm bringing in a base and a body that I split and keyed in Blender. And there's another video to explain what that process is. So here we have our model. First thing, scroll wheel zooms you in and out. Over here in the top right corner, you have this orientation cube. Click on a face and it will orient according to that face. So front, let me go rotate, top, you get the gist. Home brings you to your default view. Right click allows you to spin your platform. And by the way, what we're looking at here, imagine this is the build platform on your 3D printer. Shift right click will allow you to pull your stage or your build plate around on your screen. All right, so workflow is going to be basically up here, and you go in order. Layout allows you to position your models. Prepare, that's where you do your supports. Export is where you finalize your print by inputting what your resin is and your printer and exporting to a file. So first we're going to start on the layout menu, and I'll be bouncing back and forth between layout and prepare, and you'll see why. First thing we're going to notice is that our models here are red. What that means is over in the corner that says there's an error in this. Maybe not, but according to Lychee, there is. Just click the button and it fixed one hole. Same thing over here. I've done this before, 0 holes. That's our move tool over here, this 4-sided arrow. Circular arrow is our rotate. And you can grab these colored bars here. That gives you rotation on the axis. So let's see, let me grab the blue. You can rotate the green. You get the idea. Down here on the bottom, you can punch in the numbers. The function that I tend to use the most is this outer circle, which allows you to rotate according to what your view is at the time. So I'll rotate, I can move him this way. And it ends up being pretty good because for me, it's a much more intuitive way of working that I move the model to how I want to look at it and hone in on the part that I want to isolate for positioning. Down here, scale, it's what you think. Copy actually allows you to copy a selected model. The blue model, not the gray one, is the one that's selected. So you could print multiple copies. I often do that because I drop things while I'm in the middle of painting and stuff goes wrong. So it's just, it's no extra time. But wait until you have a supported model. It will save you a heck of a lot of time. Before we start rotating and dropping in our supports, let's talk a little bit about the sort of conceptual approach. So there's a few things to keep in mind, and basically you have to balance these factors so that they work in your favor. First, every layer in a resin print is going to print at the same rate. It doesn't matter if you have 1 item or 100 items on there. It's each layer, same amount of time. So in a sense, what that means is, here, let me come over here. The flatter your model is, the faster it will print. So for example, we could take our cine, drop him here, and since the tip of the sword is lower than how we had the thing previously positioned, this would print faster. The next thing to keep in mind is that each cured layer is a thin film, and that has to be peeled off the FEP being the clear plastic on the bottom of the tank. So in fact, if you listen to your machine as it prints, you should be able to hear the peeling noise. If not, there's a good chance your print is stuck to the FEP and your print has failed. One of those things. So what this means is big flat expanses that are parallel with our build plate can sag. I picture it like trying to prop up some saran wrap with toothpicks. You need a whole lot of toothpicks to prevent any sag. And one of the ways to avoid that sort of sag factor is that you angle your flat surfaces in relation to the build plate. So, a good example here is the base for with the cat on it. Right now, this is parallel with the build plate, and no matter how many supports I put in, the bottom of this is going to look like crap. The way you get around it is that you angle your flat surfaces in relation to the build plate. So with the cat, I would do that. I'm being a little aggressive here, don't much care. That looks pretty good. I'm going to give it a little bit more rotation because I kind of want to optimize that face. And we'll go back later and check and make sure that I don't need any supports and my angle is neither too much nor too little. Now what happens is that each layer supports the next layer above it, and that you don't have these large expanses. Okay, the other thing to keep in mind is that your connection to the build plate has to be strong enough that each time you peel a layer from the FEP, it sticks to the model in the build plate and doesn't stay on the FEP. We take care of this by making sure that we have a sufficient number of supports. Now that brings us to supports. They leave marks on the model. The bigger the support, the bigger the mark. So our goal is to balance all of these considerations, and what I do is I have as few supports as necessary, and that's the key here, as necessary. Still need to keep it onto the build plate. I place supports where they won't be noticed. So with regard to the cat, everything under this base won't be noticed, and I can go crazy on this. Right now, the way Senny is, he would need a ton of supports all the way along his back, and it would look pockmarked. On the other hand, if I tilt him up, like so, I'm just kind of eyeballing it right now, I can place supports on the key that's going to notch into the pocket over here. You'll never see that. I'll go under his feet. You'll never see that. Under the coat, it's at the bottom of the base. That's not where your eye goes. And then, you also position the model so that you don't need supports on the most important details. What's the most important detail? That really depends on the model and you. In my opinion, people tend to look at faces. So I try to position things so that I don't need any supports on the faces. And last, I use smaller supports wherever I can. Okay, so then with that in mind, let's talk orientation. Rule number 1, fundamental, we need to avoid an island. What's an island? It's any unsupported part of the model. And remember that your lower layer supports what's on the layer above it and the layer above it and so on. But if you have something that's just hanging out in space, it's not supported until that piece of the model meets up with the rest of the model. So, for example, like right now, let's say we have the base supported. Look at this sword. Assuming I don't run a support directly down, this means this arm will not be a part of the model until the print gets all the way up here, and what you're going to have is this humongous flat spot. There's a couple ways to find islands. Click on your prepare. Down here in this lower part, you have a selection of things that you can modify, and island is helpful. Let's see. So I'll click on Senny, say search, and everything that is red is unsupported and floating in space. So we, at a minimum, we're going to need supports here, again at the tip of his clothing. And look at this. There's his hand. If we have supports running where these red dots are, we'll be in pretty good shape. Another way to find islands is simply by mouse hovering. You see how you have this white line? That's a layer. And keep dropping that white line until it becomes like just a point in space. That is an island that would need to be supported. So the island finding function is great, but it does not find everything. I am guessing that this spot right here that doesn't have red is an island and would need supports. Yeah, see, there's just a really tiny little space there. So we would have to support that. Anyway, so just, go through your model, use the island detector, mouse over parts that you think are floating in space, and we'll be dropping supports in there. So basic controls, first and foremost, is we have the island search function. Let's take a look at that. I'm just running it on the cat. And as I suspected, you've got something here, here, and here. I would not want to print this model with simply 3 supports. I'd want to do more. On some models, you could totally get away with using the auto function, and this is kind of brilliant. In this case, like bases are usually pretty good for this. Let's see, so I'll put this on my medium, and here's the diameter of the support, the diameter of the tip when it touches the model, and how long the tip is from the support. And it's blue. I'm focused on the cat. Generate auto. What do we get? Not too bad. I will probably go in and add just a few more to be on the safe side because it would suck to not be fully supported. So I have some supports down. See the shape of this raft? I'm not actually very keen on that. I much prefer using, and you notice I click on raft over here, up comes a menu. Using the free version, you get some choices. I like this one because you notice that little angled lip right there? It makes it easier to get a scraper underneath and lift the model from the base without having to torque anything too much. Let me go back to our support. And in this case, I'm going to use some lights. Right click to rotate. I want to get underneath. Shift right click. I'm going to bring this model over. So now I'm on light. And remember, before our tip diameter was 0.6. Now it's 0.3. So it's very tiny. It leaves just the smallest amount of damage. So I'm going right near the edge. And I'm going to go up here. That looks pretty good. I'm trying to keep the supports off of the visible part. And frankly, I'll print this, I'll remove the supports, and after everything is cured, I might lightly rub the base over a little bit of sandpaper to smooth it out perfectly. Nobody will ever know that there were supports on the bottom. And just for a little bit of overkill. Okay, so now I have these supports. Let me right-click and rotate. And what you'll notice is like the ones that are automatically generated have these braces. These ones down here don't. There's a way to fix that. I'm going to take all of these supports, and I did the click drag to select. And I am going to, let's see, I forget which one it is. I think it's utilities. Now I don't want lift object. Manual, I want manual. So, and here, bracings. And it will automatically generate bracings. Now, the supports are braced from side to side. And what's good about that is as the model is going up and down in the resin, you could picture that the brace might be moving just the tiniest bit from side to side. And these braces will keep everything from moving. So, looking at this cat's done. So let's get back to our Seni. One of my big concerns on Seni, in fact, I'm going to go over to layout and just move the cat off to the side so we can focus better on Seni and not have any clutter in the front. So here's Seni. I'm going to reset rotation. So now he's up straight. Let's go back to our prepare and let's look at what our islands are and what our issues are. First, feet. There is no, look at that. The entire foot is one big white. That means that's parallel. And the feet are going to print lumpy because of all the supports. Okay, so we know that. We got to take care of that issue. What's the other issue? I'm worried about his chin. So let's zoom in a little bit. And if you look, as I'm dragging down that arrow, or dragging down my cursor, it looks like his chin might be an island, which would mean that we have to support the chin in this position so that it doesn't print with a flat spot. I'm going to run the island detect and see. And oh my, yes we do. So looking at the angle of his chin, see how this comes down in this angle? I think I want to tilt the chin back just a little bit so we don't have to support it. Ears tend to have an island no matter how you position, so don't freak out about that. A lot of islands over here on his hands. Again, we might be able to tilt that back so we can minimize how much. You won't get rid of it, you just won't. But we can do things and make them better. So with that in mind, let's go back to layout. Let's rotate Senny so we can not have to support the chin, and maybe we can minimize his swords and his hands. I'm really concerned about his fingertips right here. I want those to print nice and clean. So I'm going to go layout, right click, and I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see what we're doing. We're on rotate. You know this because you can see the circles. I'm going to rotate just a little bit that way. And let me look. Still seems like an island right here. Let me click front to make sure I'm very oriented on this. I think we can rotate him back just a little bit. This is more than I want to do, but he's got such a strong chin. I don't want to lose that, and I don't want to have support marks under his chin or running up from his body to his chin. Looking at his sword, I'm just going on a guess here. I think if I make this bow here a little more vertical, and I'm just guessing, I might not have to support the bow as much. Let's go back to prepare, and first, let's check our islands. And let's try search again. Make sure I don't do this. Okay, that's better. Okay, so now let's look at the chin. Zooming in, scroll wheel. There's a little bit there, not a whole lot. I think we could get away with it. Remember, like right now on the screen, he's blown up. You're 100 times bigger than you'll ever see him. What did I say? The ears tend to have an island. Seems like we have fewer supports on the sword. Might have to clean up the fingers a little bit, but now look, they're on the inside of the model. Those are going to be hard to find. I mean, you would actually have to be holding the model in your hand and rotating it. His pants, they're going to be on the inside. I'm not as worried about that. That looks like a small support, not concerned. I think we can work with this position. First issue, we want to make sure that our model is not going to be pulling free from the build plate. An easy way to do this is let's drop a heavy support. Look at that tip diameter, 1 millimeter. When you take that off, it leaves a mark. And I'm going to put one right here. And one right here. And I don't care about these. These are things that will, they just won't be seen when I am printing. When I attach the model to the base, I clip this end off. So go ahead and make it ugly. I can clean that up. We've got some pretty thick supports there. I'm fine with that. Now let's drop in some mediums. Sorry about that. So I was highlighted on a support, and because I was highlighted and clicked medium, I changed the size of it, which is good to keep in mind if you want to, if you change your mind how you can approach things. So I'm going to click in space. And now I'm going to swap over to medium. And let's look at our next big set of challenges. Look at his feet right here. That we need one. And I think we could get away with a medium there. What I'll do is we'll put in some island supports right there, just so we're not island supports, branch supports. And I'll show you these. They're brilliant. One of the best things ever. And I'll drop in one here, and it's just click, and I'm done. Let me get on this. And this says we still have an island. So I'm going to do Control-Alt-Click. And I'm going here. and I'm clicking on my model. And see what I did? If you look, we have a smaller support, and I just branch it right off. So Control-Alt-Click. I'm going to do one right here. I'm going to do the same thing. You can go off of the model, or you can go from the model onto your support. Same thing. I feel like we could be a little stronger here, so Control-Alt-Click, and go just close to it. And these are pretty fine. They're finer than your regular medium. And these actually look pretty good. So I'm going to get over to mousing over. I don't want this leaking over to the face. So I try to get as close to the edge as I can without actually touching it. Same thing. Look how the white line comes down to a point. I know exactly where I want to put that. And I'm on my mediums. I'm kind of getting to a point where, like my large structures, I'm definitely going to be supporting with a medium. And then when it gets to finer detail like this, I'll do lights. That looks pretty good. I think our next area of concern is going to be his elbow and his sword. These are pretty small. I think we'll hit those with a medium. This one I'm a little more concerned about, so I'll go right there. I said we'll go right there. It's not letting me. Oh, that's why it doesn't want to let me. We'll do this another way. His hair. I'm a bit concerned because this lump here is pretty darn big. So I'm just going to drop something. Let's zoom out and see what we got. Oh, so far pretty good. Swapping over to our lights. And now I'm going to be... These lights leave very, very little visible markings. And in this case, what I'm going to want to do is... I think I'm going to run some of my supports off of my other supports. So we were doing Control-Alt-Click for these little mini tree branches. If you just do Alt-Click, it's a regular support, but you can branch it to another support. So a good example is here. Let's see, did that work? And check it out. We have a little support. See, I don't like how that is fitting. In fact, so I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to delete that. So what I'll do then is I'll find another place to support. So we'll go Alt-Click, and I'm going to run this branch over to this. Now, one of the things you have to keep in mind is if you get your supports too close to the model, you run a risk of them sticking to the model, and then you have to clean the bracing itself, not just the tip from the model. You might as well throw it away and start over. This is micro, so Control-Alt-Click. I'm going to just run one of these little mini tree supports here. This isn't too big, but it's also getting more near the front. And as you can tell, this is not the most scientific method out there. But, it gets the job done. I'm not really complaining. These, see the clearance going from here to here? I'm thinking I might be better off if I do this. If I go Alt-Click and tie into here. And then I'll do Control-Alt-Click, and I'm going to tree through these little fan supports. Let me get underneath. I found a spot. I think Control-Alt-Click. I'm going to get the tip of his ear and run it here. Rotating, I want to get into this. I love these fan supports. They're just the best thing ever. Obviously, there's probably a smart aleck comment someone could make about that. That didn't seem to improve anything, so I'm going to delete that and rotate. And that should take care of his His ear, chin, and everything there looks pretty good. Let's run some supports down his hand. Now these little fan supports are micro, so sometimes you might need a little more, and that's why I'm doing this. And again, mousing, see where it becomes a solid circle. That's a little less supported than other things. So I should say that's more of an island than other things. I think this one's done. So let me zoom out. I'm going to click, drag, select, and let's go to manual. Let's generate some bracings. Those are fine. Let's change our raft. So now that we have the supported model, our last bit is actually quite easy. It's time to export it. Remember back at the beginning of this video, I said if you're going to copy a model, it's good to do it after it's supported. That's what I'm going to do here. I like duplicating the model because some prints come out better than others, and also I tend to drop stuff or I end up painting and I just don't like how it comes out. So highlight, click copy. How many copies? I'll say 2 copies. I don't need 3. And I'll do the same for Seni. Copy. Give me 2 more copies. Duplicate selection. And last thing is I want to arrange all. Oh gosh, that looks awful. I don't want to do that. See how close some of these supports are? I don't think this stuff would print. That's a horrible arrangement. So I'll do it manual. And I just want to give some clearance. Also, I've heard that if your prints all end up at the same place, you end up fatiguing your FEP because all of your peeling is coming from a single location on the FEP. All right, we're arranged. We're great. Next step, we go into the export screen. We're going to select a printer. In this case, it's going to be my the Mars 3. Let me pick a resin. I've been using the Smoky, and this is a resin that I calibrated. If you want me to do a calibration video, I will just ask. I'm good. Now, if I like this, I might save the scene so that it could be duplicated. Let's see, anti-aliasing, I'm going to keep that off. Destination, export to file. And now I have to watch this splash screen. I'll just scrub forward in the video so you don't have to do it. It's the burden of using the free version. So now that the splash screen has gone the full length, I'm going to print. I get a Windows-generated screen and saving as. I've just hit save file, and you are watching what each layer looks like. I like watching this because I've actually had prints that don't export properly, and it seems like what happens is there's a gap in my layers. So as long as this looks like it's printing smooth, it is smooth, and I'm safe. And we're getting near the top. Right over here, you can see the tip of the sword, and done. Now it's just a case of put resin in a printer and press go. This has been fun, at least for me. See you around.